Okay, old age makeup part 2. An even coverage of base everywhere where you're going to put makeup. Over the lips, over the eyes, over the neck. Alright, now that we've got the base on, I'm going to show you a technique to make your eyebrows look an exaggerated version of old eyebrows, and that is using spirit gum. So I'm going to use spirit gum to brush my eyebrows from the outside of my face towards the inside. I'm doing this at this stage in the game so that the spirit gum has a chance to dry. And eventually we're going to paint the eyebrows with white color to make them look like bushy white eyebrows. You could also accomplish this probably with eyebrow gel. Alright. Now for the fields of highlight and shadow. I'm going to use a 1/2-inch brush, acrylic paintbrush, and I'm going to use the darker color shadow in the kit. As you get older, your skin starts to sag away from your bones and your temples will look more sunken in. So using a similar technique that we did with Extreme Lean, ooh, that came out really dark. Perhaps too dark? We'll see if we can blend it. Yeah, it'll be fine. So the space above where the cheekbone is, the indentation on the side of the eye where the temple is, to make it look sunken in. To make the eyes look sunken into the eye sockets, shadow surrounding the eyeball, a 1/2 circle outlining the shape of the eyeball. To make it look as if the cheeks are not as full and youthful, shadow under the cheekbones. A diagonal line from the hairline towards the mouth. To make it look like the nose is distinctly different from the face, lightly shadow the sides of the nose, blend into the base at the point where the nose connects to the face. There it is. The nose is more effective than the cheek. I think I laid the cheek on too dark, but I can go back and blend it. The jaw. To create the shape of the jaw, I'm going to trace beneath where the jaw is and then slightly curving up. Then tracing the chin and curving up. The curve up comes to a point about the center of the eye. I'm going to add a little bit more shadow there so I have something to blend downward. Other fields of shadow positions. Those are the main large ones. So before we add wrinkles and more details, I'm going to go ahead and blend those using the wider acrylic brush. So blurring the edges into the base so that it's a smooth transition from where the base color is to the shadow color. I'm also, on these areas where I got the shadow a bit darker than I wanted it, blending that into the base. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Then I'm blending the shadow on the jaw down. I'm adding a bit more shadow so that it looks like a cast shadow from where the jaw is hanging down. Yeah. Up close, it'll look very exaggerated. Like most of the makeups for this class, this is ideal for a medium-sized stage. So up close, for a very small stage, like our black box theater, this will look too exaggerated, too extreme. But for a medium-sized stage, like our 2 main stage venues, this would look appropriate. And for a main stage that is bigger than our theaters, you'd want to make this more exaggerated. Aww. All right. Those look smoothly blended. Great, so let's start adding more. I'm going to stick with shadow, and I'm going to start at the forehead and go down. So to model wrinkles on the forehead, I'm going to raise my eyebrows and see where those natural indentations are. If when you raise your eyebrows you don't have any natural indentations, maybe your forehead will never wrinkle. So it will be hard to make wrinkles on your forehead look realistic, so skip it. Also, if you have a really low hairline, skip it. But if you're like me and you get a lot of natural indentations, go for it. So while your eyebrows are raised, using the flat side of the brush, paint the indentations. Sometimes they're a straight line across. Some people have 2 or 3 lines. Some people have 1 line. Sometimes it's half a line over here. Oh yeah. All right. The next wrinkle position for the forehead is that scowl. So when you scowl, some people get 2 or 3 lines here, but where that indentation, where your skin goes in, is where you want to paint the shadow. I get 2. And then when your face is relaxed, go through and smooth those lines. Also on the forehead lines, when your face is relaxed, taper the edges to 0. If when you first laid them in, they came out as thick rectangular lines, smooth the edges so that they taper. Those might have gotten too thick. Oh, maybe not. The next position for shadow is this hanging down piece of flesh under the eyebrow I was discussing. So draw a half circle from the center of the eyebrow to the end of the eyebrow. The next shadow position is crow's feet. So maybe when you smile or squint, you could see those pronounced indentations. So smile or squint so you could see them, and then trace them carefully from where they start, flicking the brush at the end so that they taper where they finish. I've also got a line here. If you have the beginnings of that line, you could draw it. On the other eye, I'm going to show you how you could use a pencil in the same way. If you feel proficient with the side of the brush, great, continue with that. If you want to experiment with pencil, make sure you have a sharp edge on your pencil and squint. I feel better with the brush, but I wanted to show you this so you have it in your toolkit. I think it's harder to control the pencil. But that's me. Maybe you'll have an easier time controlling the pencil. See how this looks like one fat line? I want to make it thinner at the edge. And you might use a combination of pencil and brush. I'm going to go back to the brush to emphasize these indentations here. And that can be a little bit of a wider line. Then the lines around the mouth. So two things are happening here. When you smile, as light is cast here to show the shape of the fullness of the cheek, it gets darker to here. Just like we looked at those drawings of a sphere. So start by drawing the edge of it, and then use a wider brush to blend the edge of that cast shadow up towards the cheek. So this is what's adding dimension and weight to the cheek. Then go back with the side of the brush and deepen that line. So it's a line and a shape. Yeah, shape. On the other side. And then with the brush. And then deepening the edge with the line. And for me, I get two little lines there, so I'm going to draw both of them. All right. Another possible wrinkle position is right here to emphasize the shape of the chin. It's like a curved line. It tapers at the edges. I look old already! On the lips, I'm going to do the lips last because as I'm talking, they're going to disappear. So let's do the neck next. We get a few options for the neck. You can use the same technique that we did for extreme lean, where you wince and emphasize those tendons. You could also do the same technique we did for extreme stout, where you press your chin back and emphasize those lines. I'm going to do those this time. So press your chin back, indicate where those lines are. Oh yeah. I'm going to go ahead and do the lips. We'll see how they stay on. People that smoke their whole lives will have a lot of diagonal lines towards the center of their lips. You can emulate this using a sharp edge of the brush, purse your lips, and trace those lines. They should look like thicker at the beginning, at the opening of the lips, and then thinner at the edge. Another way to make your lips look older is to, as we did with extreme lean, make your lips look thinner. So because we've already got the base covering the lips, I'm putting the brown shadow color. You can see that especially when I smile, makes my lips look thinner. All right. I'm going to switch to highlight, show you the highlight positions. On the forehead, you're going to highlight in between those, the shadows. And you'll see when you raise your eyes where the light is hitting the tops of those folds of skin. That's where you want the highlight to be. So it's wider than the shadows. When you scowl, you highlight the center in between the scowl, this muscle here, right above your eyebrow on either side. Highlight the center of your nose. Highlight the center of your eye socket, where your pupils are. That adds to making your eyes look sunken in. For this hanging down flesh here, highlight the center of the half circle. Then go back with the shadow and blend the shadow up. So right now it looks like a line and a field of color. You're going to blend the shadow up towards the highlight, like the drawing of the sphere, like light hitting a sphere. So the lightest point is in the center and then gradually darker on the edges. Using the flat side of the brush in the highlight color, I'm going to put highlight in between the crow's feet so it looks like light is hitting the top of them. I'm similarly going to put highlight in between the shadows on the lips. I'm going to put a little bit of highlight to emphasize the shape of the chin and just on top of the shape of the jaw and on top of the cheekbones. I guess I should have done that before I did the crow's feet. So now I'm putting it carefully to not interfere with the crow's feet. It looks like I could blend the edges of this a bit further. And this. Theatrically old. Alright, let me check my notes. So I've added the same shadows as middle age and then some. Deepen the lines, creating a skull-like shape. I think we're there. Creating smile lines, frown lines. Oh, sharpen your pencil to create fine lines. That's a tip. So the eyebrow and eyeliner pencil, if you put it in the freezer and then sharpen it with a makeup pencil sharpener or regular pencil sharpener, you'll get a crisper, sharper tip than if you hadn't frozen it. Because the surface of it is malleable, freezing it helps. Spirit gum on eyebrows to make sparse, got that. Oh, stipple rouge on cheeks. So I'm going to use the stippling sponge and I'm going to press it into the red and the brown cream colors and then press that into the cheeks to indicate, and the top of the nose, broken blood vessels. Some people have a lot of these when they're old. Some people don't have any, but if you find, yeah. So pressing the stippling sponge gently, not to blur it and create pink, but to create a lot of little dots. Ah, latex hand. We'll make a separate video of that. Old age spots. So the spot that I showed you in the beginning that's now covered up, let's create some more spots like that. Using the 1/2" brush, pressing it into the shadow color, and then pressing it into the face. So old age spots are usually organic shapes. Some are bigger than others. Some are 2 of them together, or 3. Maybe there's one here. This came out great. So pressing the brush into the face. I look very scary. Not that old people are scary, but because I look so unlike myself, and because it is an exaggerated version of old age, up close it can look scary. Oh, the neck. I didn't add highlight on the neck. I'm going to add highlight on top of those cast shadows. And I'm going to go back and smooth the edges of the shadows a bit. Great. Looks like there's room for blending here. All right. Now hair color. The Ben Nye kit for fair, light, medium comes with white hair color. I don't know where mine is, but that's what you could use for this step. The Warmer, darker, browner skin tones come with an ivory hair color that might work or look appropriate. You could also use white color spray. And what I'm going to use is this that came with the Kryolan kit white hair mascara. So I'm going to put this. You could also use the white cream color in the same way. This comes on a mascara wand. I'm going to brush that on top of those bushy eyebrows to get more in the Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, old person range. I'm also going to add white onto the eyelashes. Not all old people's eyelashes turn white. That's not necessarily, doesn't happen to most people, but on stage, it really adds theatricality to the look and makes it undeniably older. I'm also going to pull a few pieces of hair out and color them. This is totally optional. It, for the most part, will wash off with soap and water, and definitely wash out whenever you wash your hair. On stage, we usually use a toothbrush to paint white hair color onto the hair because it has the effect of creating that salt and pepper look. Looks more realistic than if we just painted a chunk of white. This mascara one seems to have a similar idea. This is probably what I'm going to look like when I'm old. A mix of white and gray and pink and purple. Oh, I didn't powder. It's not too late. Powdering will, for one, set the cream color in place. So I'm using translucent powder and I'm going to press it into the makeup. I might have done this before I did the white hair color. It's also going to soften the look a little bit, which you might want to go back and deepen the contrast between some of the highlight and shadow. Or maybe not, maybe it softened it just enough. Yeah, alright, there it is. Old age. Exaggerated old age for theater. For a medium-sized stage.